Fated Night, August 19th, Year 10 at 11:15 p.m. Entry 77. So, today has been interesting. I haven't got much time to type this entry out since Greg is on his way and I wish to change clothes, but I'll try and be efficient and succinct. Yesterday, I spent the morning with Z and his family. Went to Chris's old house on Night Street with Z and found that it was boarded up. Chris recently informed me that his mom had died, and I assumed they went to Chris's old house to settle things, but no one was there. Afterwards, I brought Z to Angel's. We sparked up, and then I bounced. I returned home to go to the Japanese restaurant, Shogun, with mother and grandmother. Later that day, I got bored of staying in and decided to bike to downtown Providence. I passed by Stone Mike's crib briefly and found out that he'd been depressed for a while. I told him if he wanted to talk, I'd be happy to listen. He told me he'd call me later on that night, but he didn't. I assume he went to sleep or forgot. It's no big deal. After that, I went to Providence Place Mall after observing the skateboardies first. When in the mall, I walked around keeping myself entertained by people watching for a bit. As I was getting ready to leave, when the mall was closing, this guy passed by. Our eyes met. We both kept walking in our directions, but a few steps later I turned around to look at him, and he turned to look at me before turning away and continuing on. I decided to stop and observe him, and when he turned back, I smiled widely and shrugged. He turned away and later turned back again before completing his job. I waited a bit, texting my buds and listening to music, and then after a few minutes, figured that I needed to go in that direction to leave the mall anyway, where my bike was parked. I went in that direction and looked up at the last second to find him looking this time as he passed me, again. I turned my body around to follow him with my eyes as he went past and just smiled and shrugged again. He went into the store, Tivana or something like that. I considered leaving with that to contemplate, but talked myself out of it. His staring and curiosity both boded well for me, so I decided to walk closer to the store and wait for him to be finished. After a bit of waiting, I became antsy and a little anxious. So I took out my mini notebook and started writing down what I wanted to say. I was going to attach it to a pin and drop it in front of his work, or call his female co-worker over and give her the note to give to him. I was going to, but just as I finished up, he came out, and there was a moment of semi-pleasant awkwardness. I said, "Hi," and couldn't come up with the words, so I handed him the note and walked off. The note read, "Hey, I'm hardly a master of approaching strangers 101, but when you're off work later, I would appreciate it if you let me interview you about your job. Call it my subtle way of hitting on you. If I manage to pique your interest, here's my number, Khedive." More or less that was the note. And as I walked off, seeing him at first, reading the note, then leaning against the rail, I turned and continued walking away, and after going down the escalator, doubled back on the first floor to see if I could still see him at the rail. He was gone. But I did get a text from a new number. It said, "Where are you from?" It was him, and during the course of that conversation, and the ensuing one at the fountain in Kennedy Plaza Park, I found out that his name was Matt. He lived in Cranston, but recently moved to Providence. He was 20 years old and a Scorpio that had made bad decisions, but was working on setting his priorities straight. He told me that he really liked the note and was going to save it, which made me happy. I ended up sitting by the fountain with him, and we chatted for a bit before he had to depart, because he made other plans to help a friend with his or her pool. As soon as he had left, I made a beeline straight to the girl who had been sitting on a nearby bench. I had recognized her from a job I once had a while back. We spoke friendly-like for a while, and in that time, I found out her name was Vanessa. She was a Newport Virgo and also a psych major. I told her I was bi, tactfully or energetically, and she said she was surprised but took it pretty well since she never would have guessed. I asked her for a number, which she gave to me, before departing on her bus back to Newport. I rode my bike home with electricity bouncing around my head and stomach from the realization of what had just happened. I had pulled two numbers, one from a guy and one from a girl, within less than a 2-hour span. I was impressed and very excited. In my excitement, I inadvertently made semi plans with Steve, Ryan, and Joe, and had to cancel them all when Greg called me and told me he was on his way. I made plans with Greg first earlier that day. Plus, I'm still sexually or romantically interested in him somewhat, so his plans take priority on both accounts. I hung out with Greg and his friend Rob, Pisces, who seemed to like me pretty well. We hung out and went to some place called Gooseberry where we climbed the tower. Not too high because Rob couldn't get past his fear of heights. And then went in the abandoned bunker and sparked. After, we went into the smaller of the two towers and sparked again, while satisfying munchies. Looking at the red moon hover above the water and Rob taking several more pictures of graffiti. P.S. Rob's not pee shy. I wonder if that's correlated in any way to his confidence in the size/capability of his penis. Greg got the fantastic idea to come up there another day with his portable cooker and other equipments and have a mini cookout. I thought it would be a great idea. Greg and Rob screamed like ghouls on the way back. It was entertaining but disconcerting. I laughed quietly at my self-consciousness. Greg has tomorrow off. Hopefully we can hang again. Thought, what if someone doesn't know they're gay? Nah, most people would be aware of their desires but may suppress or ignore them. Today was a good day. Also, I ran into Sean from CCRI, and he gave me his MySpace where he posts some of his musics and writings. He noticed that I write, but how? August 20th of year 10. Entry 78, Switch and Charm. Hung out with Matt from yesterday. Had a decent time. Went with him to YPI. Found it to be an interesting place, and there was this cute Sagittarius there with an Aquarian friend. I got both of their contacts. Hope things go smoothly. Honesty is important. Also, Greg accidentally flirted with me over AIM. It gave me butterflies. But I knew he couldn't have been flirting with me intentionally. Because I'm a guy and he's straight. Straight guys don't switch and charm, quote unquote, that fast. Oh well, I suppose stranger things have happened.